Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the IEEE Forms of the Future podcast. My name is David Stankiewicz. I'm an event producer and digital event strategist for the IEEE Conferences, Events, and Experiences team. And in today's episode, I'm going to talk to actually two interviewees, both from the IEEE GRSS Society. Sidharth Misra is a research engineer at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and he's also the past vice president of meetings and symposia at IEEE GRSS. And Omkar Pradhan is also at NASA JPL. And more specifically, as it relates to today's topic, he's the TIE coordinator for the IEEE GRSS TIE Forum. So what exactly is the TIE Forum? Well, it's what these guys here at IEEE GRSS are calling their Technology, Industry, and Education Forum. A new form of programming, relatively new, that I think our conference organizer community could benefit from learning about. And seeing maybe how they can infuse some of the learnings that they get from today into their conferences. So that's why we're here. That's what we're going to talk about, and we're going to delve into the TIE Forum a little bit more in depth. First of all, just define it for my audience. Tell a little bit about what it is and how it came to be. And just give us a brief backgrounder on the Technology, Industry, and Education Forum.
I believe it started in 2017 when IGARSS was in Fort Worth, Texas. It stands for Technology, Industry, and Education. So you can sort of think of it as a catch-all for several things. What it is a parallel track that runs currently it runs mostly at our IGARSS flagship conference, our GRSS flagship conference, IGARSS. And the original idea was, hey, we need a place for something that's more than just research or technical talks. Most of our conferences are 12 to 15 parallel tracks at the same time over a 5-day period. These are technical talks, oral presentations, posters. The TIE Forum, on the other hand, is something that is research plus. It is more than just technical talks. It handles everything within our society, within geoscience, with respect to technology, industry, and education. So something that wouldn't traditionally fit in a technical track would go here. So you can have anything from coding workshops. That's the education aspect of it, or young professional panels, or early career panels, or CV writing workshops, to industry talks, venture capitalist panels, big industry trends. And then you can go to the technology side, where folks such as from NASA, ESA, the European Space Agency, and other space institutions come and talk about technology developments, the latest trends, what's coming up, government workshops. So you can just see it just encompasses a lot, and it caters to an audience that goes from student early career all the way to professionals, people who write proposals.
Awesome. Very good. So we had this sort of discussion, Sid, right, in our pre-call, that it started as what you had just described, sort of a catch-all, right? But I think and this is my question for both of you, as the programming for the TIE Forum has matured, you've got to be a little bit more careful in how you curate, right? I mean, you could throw a bunch of spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks, or you can really be selective in the process for who gets accepted to speak at the TIE Forum, right? So my question revolves around that. Like, how did you frame the event out when it first started? Did you pick the team first, or did you focus on the track of the TIE Forum first, or maybe they went hand in hand? And how has the selection process, matured, if you will, or grown over the years? Are you proactively reaching out to people to speak at the TIE Forum, or is it so popular now that they're coming to you and you're reactive? Omkar, you go first, maybe, and then Sid, if you could follow up.
It's true that it has evolved into being slightly more selective now, and we now know what type of topics and what type of people we are looking for to participate in this. Nevertheless, so because of the local flavor, there is always a TIE coordinator that's a part of the local organizing committee. That's not me. And so they really define certain local events that are more relevant because IGARS travels internationally. They define events that are relevant to their remote sensing community, their geographical remote sensing community. So that's one way that a lot of events change over the years. But TIE is also contributed to by the various other GRSS committees such as Young Professionals, IDEA, Women in Engineering, and then the speaker selection is really comes from the topic of interest that we are curious about in that particular year, in that particular event, and we reach out to folks. So it's been crowdsourced to a pretty good extent so far. We do have certain common events that we like to see every year, such as workshops going over writing up resumes, proposal writing workshops for especially relevant to early career and graduate students. And then recently we have started to have workshops on artificial intelligence and machine learning and how that is used to analyze geospatial data especially. So it's sort of become a scaling science contribution, and that's oftentimes held not only in TIE but also in the tutorials. But then the TIE is sort of a IGARS Plus forum again, where whatever we cannot include in our regular programming.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like there's a few things that are staples to the TIE forum, which, like you said, some of those soft skills and writing and things like that you always want to see. But then depending on the topics that are hot in the industry, or, you have to stay current. So right now, your TIE programming for 2025 is probably going to include a lot of AI or something else, right? So, and Sid, it sounds like it's taken on a life of its own. It's so popular that it's sort of doing its own work with crowdsourcing and people wanting to be able to speak at this thing, right? Can you add to that a little bit?
Yeah. It's a struggle, to be quite honest. Well, first of all, this grew organically, right? We can't force anything. So since 2017, it grew. COVID happened, and then honestly, it just took off again after 2022. Partly due to efforts such as from folks such as Omkar. But it's a struggle because we're at that stage where there are certain society level, GRSS society level events that are popular, right? If I just read them out, we would call them the Young Professional Career Panel, Young Professional Breakfast, IDEA, which is our diversity community, their industry panel, their breakfast, their lunch, a geo pitch competition, all of that. So these are the society levels that are now popular. But it started off at the local level where you want an LOC flavor, like Omkar just said. So for example, last year it was in Europe, and there was a European Research Council panel. That wouldn't happen every year. And now what's happening is we're sort of getting crowded, and it's a push and pull between, our people like these society level events, but this is a LOC conference. At the end of the day, they should have freedom. And then on the third aspect being, as Omkar said, there are people who just want to come and TIE, and they come in with their own proposals that is independent of the society and independent of the LOC. So it's a fun problem. And I would love to say we have an answer, but I'd say we're still evolving.
If I were an author and it's a concurrent track that's competing with my paper presentation, do people get upset? Like, everyone's going to the TIE forum, but they're not coming to my session to listen to my research. I would be like, hey man, like, make that its own thing. Why have it be happening synchronously with one of the technical tracks or sessions? Do you guys get any feedback from authors in that way?
There have certainly been clashes in schedule, so some folks simply can't attend, but they have never been resentful. I think that's kind of what you're asking. Like, they have never complained in a resentful manner. Why could you not just do it separately? It's part and parcel of most large conferences that you want to be at 3 times the number of talks and events than you can actually just physically are able to. So people seem to accept TIE, a concurrent running track in that same in that same way.
Are these included in the publications or the proceedings for the event, or these are just recorded and maybe made available on demand? Can I experience them if I don't go to them in person? How do I do that, Sid? Is that a thing?
It again, it's very local, so it depends. This is sort of getting into the weeds of conference organization, but this is a conference podcast.
That's all right. My audience is conference organizers.
Right. It depends on the AV, honestly.
Okay. Yeah.
Some IGARs have had an AV where recording is very easy, and some have had where it's a extra $20,000 cost. So
Okay.
no, it's not recorded all the time. But that's all right. Hey, consider this as a you know, an a la carte menu, and Thai is just another menu option that you have. And I always say, like, there are many folks who just are sort of saturated with technical talks after several hours, and they just go and decide to sit at a Thai forum. And
I need a break. I need something different.
and then find something that piques their interest. So it is concurrent. We do have 14 to 16 parallel tracks. This is just the 17th parallel track. That's one way of thinking of it.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Sid, I'll stay with you. You said this has been around for 7 years, right? 2017. So this will be its 8th year, 2025, if I have that right. What are the future plans to continue to grow the Thai Forum? Maybe to reach new audiences or expand engagement. You know, you mentioned some of the topics that are featured at the Thai Forum and some of the groups that are heavily involved in it, the YPs, diversity, women in engineering. What's the future of this look like for you, for GRSS?
We are looking to expand beyond the flagship. I think that's our 1 to 2 year plan, if you would want to put it that way. Regional conferences, and GRSS also does regional or topical conferences. These are smaller conferences, 200 to 400 people. So a much scaled down version of that. That's where we want to expand to. On the 5-year plan, as I said, this is still an evolving thing. We're still learning. I'll just give you an example. One of the discussion points is, hey, Thai is becoming so popular. Do we need 2 parallel tracks? We have in our society portfolio, we have the director of industry relations. They're coming to us and saying, you know, we need a lot more industry slots because they want to participate, and the society in general wants to attract more industry folks. So long term, down the line, you could see more regional stuff, more topical conferences, more small conferences, and maybe even expand Thai into parallel tracks.
Okay. Let's tell some stories. I like storytelling. Sid, you go first. Omkar second. Tell me a story. Your most memorable Thai session, either that you sat in on and listened to, or I don't know if you guys speak at these things that maybe you participated in, but tell me a fun story about a Thai forum session.
I'll just go back to the theme of being tired at technical talks. It happened in 2018. I believe it was Valencia IGARSS. I went through 3 sessions of technical talks. I was absolutely exhausted, and I decided to just park myself in the Thai forum, which was in this lovely auditorium. The air conditioning was there, and I was not the target audience of that panel. It was women in engineering panel, but I decided to just go sit there and just listen. And we had these really like, that panel was amazing. It was just really accomplished engineers, women engineers, obviously in this case, who had gone through several things in their career, technical and personal. And I remember one of the panelists, who's actually the NASA Earth Science Director, Karen St. Germain, she was talking about her experiences, her early career failures, how she bounced back, you know, what her boss told her at that time that assured her, all of these things, which was a parallel to what was going on in my career, also related to field campaigns and geoscience and stuff like that. And, you know, I wasn't the target audience, and I loved it. I took every single piece of advice that they were giving for myself, even though it was meant for others. So I know it sounds like not as exciting, but for me it was memorable, and that's what I always think of.
That's great. No, I think that's important for the audience to hear. Like, not to, do something that's uncomfortable or out of your comfort zone, but maybe you see something topically that you don't think initially relates to you and you're like, yeah, let me give it a try. And it turned out you took some of their advice. Omkar, what's a story about a Thai form session that you remember most?
I certainly have had a few memorable experiences, but the one that stands out is when I did this the first time in Pasadena. We invited a researcher from JPL. Their name is Christina Ricci, and the topic was on how to write proposals. And there is a good bit of effort at JPL to help us write good proposals because we do compete for a lot of the work that we do with other centers, universities, etc. And um, the interesting thing was that the proposal writing or the program offices at JPL that help us guide, they take their inspiration from places such as Disney and Universal Studios, because the main goal is to showcase a proposal as a story. And so they take their cue from the best storytellers that we know in popular culture. And so the talk literally went over how you can formulate a extremely technical research proposal as a um, long time ago, so and so happened. Then there was this. Then one day this happened, and then the story goes on. So that you essentially use as a framework for how to say this is how things were done before. This is what has been the result of how things were done. Now we have this new technology or this new method, and this is how we can improve on how things were done before.
That's fun. Yeah. Writing a proposal once upon a time, ... and then that's kind of cool. All right, guys, last question. You ready? And I end my podcasts every time with a similar type question for my interviewees. Let's park the Thai form for a second. Let's just talk about bigger picture, GRSS conferences and events. Overall, look into the future, be a prognosticator. What do you see for the future of just, I guess, events in general in the IEEE sphere of events, or GRSS specific, 5 years, 10 years out? Are you experimenting with other formats of programming, or are you looking to do different things above and beyond what you're doing with Thai? Sid, go first. What's the future of GRSS events look like for you, or where would you like to see them go?
Sure. So it's interesting. GRSS conferences in general have just exploded post-COVID, and I've heard this from fellow meetings and symposia VPs from other societies in IEEE and non-IEEE societies that's the case, and where many societies are getting to an inflection point where you actually don't know, are you going to be a big conference, or are you just going to be a medium-sized conference? And that comes with its own challenges. So that's what GRSS is working through. We just had our most number of submissions right now, and we're trying to figure out how to cater to different audiences. So we just tried a interesting experiment. I can't claim that IEEE or GRSS was the first one to think about this. There are other conferences that have thought about this, which is abstract submission style. So we are now catering to three audiences: folks who want to submit an abstract into IEEE GRSS and get their proceedings published. So they send the full 4 or 5 page paper in. Then there are folks who are fairly mid to senior career. Getting that Explorer paper published, proceedings paper published, isn't a big deal for them. They just want to come to the conference for networking. So for them, we're giving the options like, hey, you know what? You can put a 500-word technical abstract in. And then there's a third one that's trying to attract folks who don't usually come to our conferences, but have topics that are tangentially related. And we're like, you know what? If you already have a published paper in IEEE, why don't you submit that as your abstract, a peer-reviewed published paper, and come to our conference? And we just did that experiment with 2025, and the results were fascinating. You saw as expected distribution between regions and careers on who chose what. And we think we're going to keep up on that. And then in terms of actual events, we're leaning heavily into networking events. We do notice that other than your banquets and all, people just want to network. So very concentrated events where lots of conference people are just a trapped audience with each other and they can talk to each other. And so a lot of our events are now very particular with that in mind. We want you to network and talk to each other. I guess that's where we're going. Yeah.
Frankly, that's probably where most of the magic happens, is just talking to people over hors d'oeuvres and a drink, and that's it. You're working on what? Oh, I'm working on this, and then a synergy occurs, and boom, you're
Hors d'oeuvres and drinks. You said the magic words.
Those are the two, secret formulas to the recipe. Omkar, what's your thoughts on this? The future of GRSS events. Where do you think they're going? What would you like to see?
I would like to see us become a more of a mainstay and a resource for the emerging new space industry through our conferences. And we have made some progress in that sense, and we have a industry relations committee also that is very heavily involved and participates in TIE, and that's what Sid was talking about before, that it's become. But I think in our sphere, we do have a lot of value to offer to new space industry, especially in the geospatial domain where folks work with end applications. We are the people who develop a lot of the instruments from where a lot of that Earth observation data comes, which is now being used in very interesting applications by folks that are traditionally do not come from a remote sensing background, but they are in the insurance domain, they are in logistics, they are in banking, and all of these folks use this data because it really provides a global picture of how weather and climate are affecting our day-to-day activities, whether it be agriculture, it be logistics supply chains, it be how the health of agricultural land, so on and so forth. So a lot of the private players in these industries so far that have participated in IGARSS, it's been a smaller number, but they have certainly benefited from talking with the folks who are generating this data, and they are able to really provide direct feedback to what's needed from the end customer, which is now no longer just the traditional government agencies and weather agencies, but a host of other industries as well.
Yeah, because they're not, these people in these tangentially related verticals are not technical people. So why would they go to a talk about fill in the blank research that's above and beyond them and over their head? Go to the TIE forum and listen to something that you can consume or understand that's at your level. That's cool. I think the industry thing is a goal across the IEEE as a whole. Many groups and societies and conferences are trying to engage that audience more and more. So you're not alone, and we'll continue to grow and figure out how to do that better. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I think there's a lot to be said and a lot to learn for other conference organizers from other groups, specifically about what you guys are doing with the TIE Forum and just your overall GRSS event portfolio in general. Super informative, definitely educational. Sid and Omkar, thanks so much for taking the time to talk with me today. Have a great one. If you would like to learn more about IEEE conferences, events, and experiences, or forums of the future, please visit our website at IEEEMCE.org and search Forums of the Future. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to our channel on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and YouTube.